Hey, are you here? Uh-huh. It's always a pleasure when we find out you're listening to the Paul Leslie Hour, one of the most unique compendiums of interviews available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and tons of other places. We got a phone interview with Diane Baham. Now, Diane Baham comes from a very interesting family. Her late father, Roy Baham, was a great country music songwriter. Roy Baham was born in 1927 in Amite, Louisiana, and he passed away in Nashville in 2012. Roy wrote some classic songs. Charlie's Shoes, recorded by Billy Walker. Blue Lonely Winter, it was cut in the studio by Jimmy C. Newman. Ray Price recorded it also, as well as Bobby Bare, Jeannie Seely, Burl Ives, Skeeter Davis. They all recorded Roy Baham songs. Diane's brother, Jonathan Baham, was also an artist and songwriter. Jonathan Baham, or Jonny as he was called, was born in Bessemer, Alabama in 1951. Jonny passed away in St. Petersburg, Florida in 2016. Jonny Baham wrote the song Lovely Cruise, which was recorded and made famous by Jimmy Buffett on his Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes album. And that was a big hit album. You know, of course, that the Paul Leslie Hour is made possible by listeners like you. If you would, please help us in our mission of helping people tell their stories and preserving history. Please visit thepaulleslie.com/support, and we thank you. And with that, it's time to start the interview. Hey, let's begin.
Hello.
Hey there, is this Diane?
This is Diane.
Hey, this is Paul Leslie. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Good to hear. So you're in Birmingham?
I am.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
You're welcome.
Just so I'm sure, how do you pronounce your last name?
Baham.
Baham. I thought so, but just to be sure.
Yeah, I've heard it all, yeah.
Well, Diane Baham, it's a pleasure. So tell me, where were you specifically born?
I was born here in Birmingham.
Okay. Now, the Baham family, is that your roots? Is it Alabama?
No, Roy, our father, was from Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us just a bit about Roy Baham.
He was quite a character.
I bet.
Yeah, interesting man. He came from nothing, basically. He had a 5th grade education, but you would never know it from the way he spoke. He was born in Amite, Louisiana. He left home when he was about 12 and stayed with his sister in New Orleans. And then he joined the Army when he was 17 and stayed in there for 2 or 3 years. And then he ended up with a band that traveled like the southeast states. And that's how he and my mother met. She was working at a radio station in Birmingham.
Oh, I see.
And they were playing there, so that's how they met.
When you were growing up, was music constantly playing around the house?
No, it really wasn't. My father kind of looked at music as a job.
Ah.
He was very good at it, but it was just sort of what he did, how he made a living or how he was, hoping to make it a living for us. But we loved music. I mean, we all of us loved it. It was a big part of our lives.
Do you have any memories of your father? You said music was like his job, but do you have any memories of him just playing around the house?
He used to play with us, like when we were children. He would like sing with it. We would sing, and he would record us singing with him, and he would like play songs to us when we were little. Old Shep was one that would just kill me every time. I was about 5 years old, But yeah, no, we didn't have like sing-alongs. I remember somebody asked me that a long time ago when I was a teenager, and I said no, we didn't sit around and sing. We didn't do that.
I got a chance to listen to quite a few of the Roy Baham songs, and some of them are they're all really clever, like Charlie's Shoes. Do you have a favorite of your father's songs?
I do, maybe. And I think it was recorded probably in the late 50s. It's a beautiful song. The words, I mean, I love the song, and I sing it sometimes when I'm just, singing songs. Yeah, it's my favorite. And I know he was surprised one time when I told him that.
Was your father a humorous type of person?
He was. He was very amusing and everybody's favorite uncle and that sort of person.
Now, it would amaze me how many what we consider classic great singers, and not just country music, but, different people that recorded his songs. I mean, Ray Price, Burl Ives, Bobby Bare, of course, Jimmy C. Newman, Billy Walker. Was there a particular version of one of his songs that you knew to be one of his favorite interpretations?
Let me think. I know the Ray Price recording was one of his favorites because he loved Ray Price. He kind of had that same sort of voice, my father, as Ray Price, sort of a more sophisticated country sound, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Ray Price.
So this love and this craft of songwriting was passed on to your late brother,
Right.
Jonathan Baham. Tell us about him.
He was one of the funniest people I've ever known. We were close. He was 2 years older than me. He was brilliant. He had a high IQ. He was an art phenom, and in high school, I mean, that was what he was known for. He had his own art shows, and he got scholarships to George Peabody College in Nashville, and he had his own art studio. I think he was the first student there to have his own art studio. He hung out with the art professors. He was very good, a very talented person, and then switched to the songwriting part and decided he wanted to do that. And he had a band for a while and played around Nashville, and then he decided just to write. And then he met Jimmy Buffett. That's sort of where the Lovely Cruise song began for him.
Do you know how Jonathan Baham met Jimmy Buffett?
My understanding is Jonny, which we called him Jonny. He found out where Jimmy Buffett was staying after his show in Nashville, and Jonny waited around the hotel with his guitar. And when Buffett came back to the hotel, Jonny started singing the song "Lovely Cruise," and I think he had him in mind when he wrote it. He really wanted Jimmy Buffett to hear it and to hopefully record it. But they spent the night drinking and playing songs, and then the next thing we knew, Jimmy Buffett was supposed to cut the song. But it took about a year, so we were kind of like, are you sure this is going to happen, And he was like, yeah, he told me it would. He promised me he would. And then sure enough, it did. It happened. So that's my recollection.
As far as I know, I mean, I can't think of any of Buffett's songs, so-called, songs, meaning this is one he didn't write, that people more confuse with one. I mean, it's written in such a style that, I know a lot of people, they get the idea that Jimmy wrote that. And it's,
I know. Yeah. Jonny loved the water. He loved the ocean, and he loved Florida and anything to do with water. And so it wasn't unusual for him to write a song like that. I don't recall him being a huge Buffett fan before that, but I mean, he was just another, person that, he liked his music, but it wasn't somebody that he talked about or, And so we were surprised, or we were a little confused because Buffett didn't cut other people's songs. He did his own music. He wrote it and he recorded his own stuff. So it was kind of unusual for him to take somebody else's song like that.
What do you think of that song, Lovely Cruise?
I think it's kind of sad, and it's typical of Jonny, of the way his life kind of went. He was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
He was in treatment probably 8 or so times. We tried to help him, and so to me that song is kind of sad because it just speaks to me of Jonny.
Mm-hmm.
That's just him.
Did your brother, were there other songs of his that were recorded by recording artists?
No, he, like I say, he had a terrible addiction to alcohol, and that's ultimately what took his life. And he wrote songs. He and my father, our father, wrote songs together.
Oh.
But I think the addiction just got in the way of everything in Jonny's life, and he would start something, but he couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Sort of. So it was very sad.
But together, your father and your brother have left a lot of songs that have really touched people, no doubt.
Oh, my father's there's probably 500 songs at least that I have the songs that were typed out, some that were recorded and some that weren't. And for Jonny, I don't know. I have his belongings, but I don't. It's not something that I've gone through or tried to understand or whatever. But later in life, he took painting back up and was doing that. But yeah, my father wrote a lot of beautiful things, beautiful songs, and he could if you told him, if you asked him, hey, can you write a poem about, I don't know, birds or whatever, he could do that in like 20 minutes. It was amazing how well and how quickly he could put something together that was really, beautiful. It was an interesting life. To sort of watch, be a part of.
Thank you so much for getting with me and sharing these memories. It helps me a lot.
Okay. I appreciate you being interested in it.
Absolutely. So I'm just curious, what do you do there in Alabama?
I'm retired. I worked for the state. I taught for a bit. I worked for the state of Tennessee for 31 years, and I retired in 2015 and moved to Alabama in 2017. So I miss Tennessee terribly because that's where I grew up, but it has a lot of good memories. So I'd like to get back there someday.
Both. I love Alabama, but I love Tennessee too,
Yeah. I love Tennessee. I just, I didn't realize how much I would miss it when I left. And it's more home to me than Alabama, than Birmingham.
I see.
Yeah. I'd love to go back. It's changed a lot.
One more thing. I'm just curious about this. Did your brother ever, even if it was just a demo, did he ever record Lovely Cruise himself?
Oh, I'm sure he did. Well, not for a record label or anything, but I'm sure it's on a tape somewhere. And like I said, I have tapes. I have all of it.
Right.
Because I'm the only one left. We had a younger brother who died when he was 33. So I have all of it. I've just never sat down to listen to any of it. I just, I don't know if it's too much or I don't know what to do with it, basically,
Right.
I'm sort of the keeper of the memories and I don't really know what to do with them.
Well, Diane, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here. It's been nice to talk to you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good day. If I can ever be of service, you know where to get me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for stopping by today. If you enjoyed our program, consider telling a friend about it. The Paul Leslie Hour is made possible through people just like you. So you want to keep the show going, right? Go to thepaulleslie.com. That's thepaulleslie.com. Click on Support the Show. And thanks to everyone who contributes. Performance of the intro music is courtesy of John Primorano, The Entertainer, written by Scott Joplin. End credit theme music is courtesy of John Primorano, the traditional song Corina Corina. Your announcer is Dan Gold. Hey, that's me. The show is hosted and produced by Paul Leslie. And we'll see you next time on the Paul Leslie Hour.